been playing this for about 3 weeks already, but I decided since I was doing some new content, I might as well start doing some for Valheim. So my normal character is loaded in here. This is just a local solo instance. As you can see, I'm in my silver gear, which wolf hide gear. This was the start of a base I had tried. So we're going to cover a couple of things. We're going to talk about food, building in general, and just about some of the progression and some of the misconceptions of how this game is designed or should be played. So basically, if we hit tab, over here we've got our compendium. So you've basically got a raven that you meet when you first join with a new character. The raven will basically give you updates on everything from workbench, start your first building, welcome actually will be probably the very first one, and then speaks as you discover items or resources. They trigger events with the raven called Hugin, as well as giving you recipes, so on the crafting side. So by default, when you're not on the relevant bench, you'll only see these. So if we go in here and we click on workbench, now we can see all the things you can make. They're grayed out because we don't have the relevant items on us at the moment. So one of the first things I'm going to do is do I have any wood? I think I do. Let's see, can we make furniture? Can we make so normally the first thing you would make in order to build anything is an actual workbench itself. So it looks like we've fine wood on us from when we logged on from our normal server. And then up here we've got a roof. Now you'll notice on the top right hand corner you've got the minimap, and next to it you've got shelter. So shelter is defined as any structure that has an actual roofed tiles on it. Floor tiles do not count as a roof, but actual when you make what's called a hammer, let's press 3. Yeah, so here's the hammer, and you right click and you get all these various tabs. So you got the basic campfire, the stone and wood, something you use a lot. When you do a lot of gathering of wood and stone, these two you'll also use a lot for creating stockpiles. At some point, when you get as far as bronze, you do want to make a cart, because when you're chopping down trees and exploring and gathering stuff, that will increase your inventory carrying capacity, so you can remain attached to that while you actually gather food and wood and whatnot. On the crafting, you've got a cooking station and a cauldron. These are placed on top of a campfire, and I believe when you do a hearth later on, you can actually do it on that as well. Now, workbench that we mentioned, this has a radius. When you place these down, you basically have a radius you can build in, and you've also got a workbench level. So that workbench level allows you to craft certain things at that level, and you can basically upgrade the levels by adding certain other things. So for example, a chopping block, wooden flint, a tanning rank is just wood, flint, leather, deer hides. And then at some point when you get bronze and you've been able to make a forge, at that point you can then upgrade it with this. Another one you can do is a tool shelf, but that's iron and obsidian and fine wood. And again, it's all about unlocking different tiers of tools and weapons and stuff. Stone cutter, that's mostly to do with stone building. There's the general forge. Again, that's when you get as far as copper and tin. It's relatively cheap at that point, but that's what I call the Bronze Age. Then obviously at that point you've got a forge. Now in there you've got deer hide and a thing called a chain. A chain, it actually can be found in one of the other biomes in 2 different places. In loot boxes and in sunken chambers. There's anvils from bronze, grinding wheel. You can find the sharpening stone. And in fact, you can actually make the sharpening stone from, I think it's stone. Smith's anvil with iron level. Now the thing about iron is from iron scraps, which you also find in a swamp in the sunken levels or sunken burial chambers, as well as some of the loot that gets dropped, as well as what's called muck piles, basically, where you hit the muck pile with your pickaxe and you can basically get iron scraps and other bits and pieces out of it. Copper, there's a forged cooler and there's a forged tool rack. And then when you're actually doing metals, you want to smelt the tin and the copper, and then obviously make bronze out of that, you will need what's called a charcoal coal kiln. So the circling cores for that are from what's called a burial chamber, which are typically in the woods or the black forest areas. They're just like small mazes of chambers. You find as many as 9 in some of them. Again, that's all procedurally generated. So you want to kind of get to this point fairly quickly. Once you have this, you gather a lot of wood. You can put 25 at a time in. Then it gives you coal. You feed the coal into... You build a smelter, which is from cores as well. You feed 20 coal into that, and then you can feed 20 ores into it, and you can mix them. So say like tin and copper, and that will spit out those in ingot forms. And then as you go to your forge or your workbench as well, I think it works out, you can then create your bronze. Same idea for iron. There are some exceptions to that. Now, in terms of food, some of the random generated villages and buildings you will find along the way will have beehives buzzing. You'll actually hear a sound. You want to kind of take them down quickly and bring them back, and then you can make a beehive. These give up to 4 pieces of honey over time, so you want to get a good few of those. It's also a good starting to medium term source of food. Fermenter. Some of the later stuff, once you get as far as being able to do tin, make the cauldron with the forge, and you can basically do special meals which are boost your health and your 3 feeding boxes down here. So at any given time you can eat up to 3 different types of food, whether it's berries, cooked meat, or the special meals that you make out of here. However, some of those meals require you to ferment them, so that's what a fermenter is for. So again, at the Bronze Age, it's just plenty of resin and bronze and a bit of fine wood. Now, just on the topic of fine wood and the different types of woods, when you do actually manage to get as far as, say, the different types of axes that will allow you to do hit certain trees, like I think it's birch versus beech, gives you a core wood. There's another one I think that gives you the fine wood, like there's pine and there's beech and firs. I can't remember which is which, but basically some of them will give you normal wood, some give you core wood, and some give you fine wood. The fine wood basically lets you, let me just go downstairs to the bench. Let's see what's on the bench. Right, so we're looking for, so the initial crude bow is just basic wood and scraps. It's good to use that as soon as, and just work on your skills. So here's my skills so far. So things like my what's my highest? Running is 52. Running away from the mobs. Axes, jump, wood cutting, pickaxes, and bows. You'll find with the crude bow that you have to actually aim in a certain way. like you have to hold down the, if I switch to the one I'm using now, this is like a tier 3 bow, which is really good, has extra damage. You have to hold, let the circle get smaller, and then you can release. Once you get used to the way, to the drop rate on it, you can do quite significant long shots as well. Typically most bows, what you want to do is just make wooden arrows at the start, and also use like you'll make hundreds of them and just use those for killing the seagulls and the other birds that land randomly, because you need their feathers to make more arrows. I don't see any at the moment, but let's go up and have a look at the chop. What's something that we dropped earlier, is it? Oh, boar trophy. Yeah, so when you're hunting like animals, eventually when you kill enough of them, you basically get to a point of being able to you get a trophy. Now some of those trophies are used in recipes as well as summoning rituals for certain bosses. There's some deer in there. Now this particular bow, as I said, is like a tier 3 bow, so this is going to make mincemeat of those. I took one down straight away, and if you're quick enough you can get the second one, and then they explode basically and give hide and meat. Alright, so let's go back to the axe. So at the moment I'm still on my bronze axe because I didn't bother making the next one. So when you chop a tree, basically the physics engine allows you to use that mechanic to basically do damage to other things, such as other trees nearby or animals. Some of the hostile animals, in particular the trolls, will they can do a lot of damage quickly. That's called a grayling. Graylings have a hierarchy: shamans and then brutes. The trick is to stay away from them as much as possible, kill them at a distance. So I still don't have room on me because I haven't made a box yet, but let me just throw some of this down, pick up some normal wood. Yeah, let's put down a box quickly. Can we? So switch to our hammer furniture. So it tells us we need a workbench as well. So this is one of the worst things about this game, is the requirement for a workbench close by. However, workbench is only 10 wood and it's cheap and easy to place anywhere. There are some restrictions in that we can't actually interact unless we build a roof over it, but it gives us the ability to what's the word, build within a radius of it. So if you do like perimeters and stuff like that, you need to build multiples of these around the place just to be able to do exactly that. So where was I doing? Oh yes, I wanted to put down one of these. So we don't have enough of the normal wood, so let's, can we pick it up? No. Okay. Alright, now we should have enough. Now we're also encumbered because of our weight restriction of 300. There is one option I mentioned earlier about creating a what was it called? A cart. This here. So once you have bronze and bronze nails from bronze, you can make the cart, so that elite helps with the weight impediment. There is also a thing called a trader. So when you're on the map, so as I said, on this solo world, I've actually used the admin command to reveal the map. Typically you'll see, for example, so there's your starting point with the stones. So when you defeat a boss, you can place the headpiece from the defeated boss there. That gives you a power or ability. So in this case, you've got the first one here is the stag tier. So if I press F, it'll activate that power. And And as well, when you're starting out, you'll find these ruined stones lying around that basically tell you little stories and hints on what to do and how to find them. In some particular cases, you'll also find them within a dwelling or a stone structure or in a crypt. And they're basically clues and hints as to where to find a particular boss. There is no one location exclusive to a one type of boss. So act here. Depending on the other lands that you may go to, you'll find a runestone that'll activate the same boss at a different location and so on. I think there's about 5 of them at the moment. As I said, as you find those stones that tell you where they're located, they will pop up on the map. The other thing that pops up on the map when you're close enough to it or you trigger it is a thing called a trader. Now the trader does have like a potion and stuff you can buy, such as a fishing rod, fishing bait, and he does have certain items that you can use to, I suppose, improve your carrying. So I think it increases 300 up to 435 if I remember right. But yeah, what's wrong? We are out of stamina already because we're encumbered. Yes, I need to get rid of something that I'm carrying. Let's get rid of the fine wood for now. Add the raspberries. So things like being wet also have a factor. When it comes to food and what we call resting, there are items you can build within your dwelling. So as I said, as long as you have your initial roof, you'll get shelter. And then there was something I actually didn't know until fairly recent, was you press X when you're in your dwelling and near a heat source, you will start to go into a rested state. Now we obviously don't have a fireplace in here at the moment, but as I said, there's 2 of the items that upgrade the bench. So it says workbench 3 here. So it says raised by building improvements. Same thing applies to the forge. Now the cooking I mentioned, I don't think it's going to be on this menu. No, it won't be. 3 very stones. Let's create a box. Now that we have wood, let's temporarily put it down. We've only enough for the one. That's why it's not letting us do that. Right, just drop. So we can eat that, we can eat that, and we can eat the honey. So there's the 3 items filled. Now, this 31 won't necessarily go up unless we have a fireplace. So let me just drop some of this stuff in here, make some room. So we go grab some more wood and a fire. Hold on, let me switch to the pick. Get some stone. Also, when you dig, it gives you stone. It's handy. Right, how much stone have we got? Need another 4. 1, 2, 3. I think we need 10 for a fireplace. Right, let's knock that off for a second. Now, wood. Let's grab some more wood. And just check our build menu to see what it is exactly we need. Ah, there we go. 5 and 2. So this is actually less than what we needed. One thing I should also point out, see we got wood here that looks like it's degrading. It actually is, because it's out in the elements. So typically what you want to do is just build a shed or a cover area that you can put them under. So for example, the side of your building, you go into buildings. So here we go, we got floors, small, 1 by 1, walls, different types of walls, different type of doors, stairs and ladders, and roof. There's generally 2 types of roof angles, 45 and 26 I think it is. There we go, that one, yeah. So in this particular case, if I wanted to create a sheltered area for the wood piles, it'd be something like that. Now, if we'd probably end up getting encumbered by doing this, but if we go over here and middle click on that, we can pick all of this up. Do we have 50? Yes, we do have a stack of 50, so that part's important. Again, hammer, right click, miscellaneous, wood stack. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put the wood stack right under it like that. So we don't have another, we need another 50, but you can essentially do the same with the stones as well. So what will happen now is they won't degrade as quickly. They'll last longer. There's some pork for our dinner. Ooh, I don't know how we missed them that time. So eventually they do cop on to where you are, so and I'm out of arrows. But anyway, let's put that away. So building in general, it is physics based. You do have to support your structure. Now you can see the bottom of the house here has been degrading because of the different discoloration. So as it ages, basically it kind of goes this paler shade of brown. So you got a full wall section here, then you got half walls, these ones. You got different types of pillars. These ones here are actually core wood, which you won't have at the beginning, but you will once you get the first axe, I think it is, from killing the stag. It actually gives you a pickaxe. What else is there? Ladders are not the best thing. They literally make you step up one at a time, so they're not very fast. Beds can only be placed and used once you have an actual roof down. You also have to have a nearby fireplace, so that was one of the things we were going to do. Now I should point out there is a little trick. Once you have the ability to get core wood, typically you can only place a fire on the ground or on a piece of stone or raised stone. The hoe actually has a right click menu where you can flatten, raise using stone and do paths, but like you can do clever things about that where you might be in an isolated area and you've built a house up on stilts. You could in theory break a piece of the floor, like, so I switched to the hammer again. We could break that and then we could just place the fireplace right down there. If we wanted to, we could actually raise it. So click that, bring it up closer, and then we can switch back and then go do that. One thing to bear in mind, when you build a house, fireplace indoors, the smoke needs to go somewhere, because it will actually build up. See, now we've got a resting state and a comfort level. So the comfort level is subject to items that you build. So for example, if we go upstairs, we'll be able to see whether our bed is close enough to the fire. See, at the moment we're also taking smoke damage. So if I click E, yes, now that we made the fire. So another thing is, when you sleep, you make time of day pass. So you can go from basically night to morning. For those who play Minecraft or modded Minecraft will be familiar with the concept of getting all players to sleep at the same time to make day pass to the next day. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll see sunshine. The weather system in this is very good. It can be very gloomy, foggy, high winds, raining, storms, you name it, snowstorms if you're near mountains. So let's say we want to up that comfort level. So if we go back in here to furniture, so one of the two things I happen to know are worth doing are the table and the chair. So right now we don't have fine wood, but if we did, we place them down, those two, and the coal and the leather scraps with a black banner and a deer, sorry, not locks, but the deer rug will give us at least another 4 points on that system. And now the benefit of doing all of this is that if we press X we can sit down, but the benefit basically is that it will improve our rested state timer. So at the moment it's sitting at 11. Of course, if you stay within proximity of being, you know, near the heat source and have a roof over your head, you can be working away and grinding or repairing or whatever and still retain those 11 minutes at comfort level 4. So increasing the comfort level higher than 4 means you get a higher rested state count. Now for some reason there must be something wrong with our roof, because we went from in shelter to exposed and then our rested timer kicked off. Now it could be because we haven't done a chimney yet for where the smoke can go. So I think is it there? Yeah, it is. Do we have enough wood on us? One of the ways of doing chimneys is to put them near the outside wall and then just put sides and a roof piece facing in opposite direction. It's usually enough to keep the rain off it, because the rain and snow will put out the fireplace. What else? So for example, because we're indoors, we would still want access to the fireplace to do cooking. But if we do something like this, you can actually, now I don't have enough wood on me, but you can basically build up a chimney going up, and that will take the smoke up and away when you're not building a fireplace near the outer walls. There's different ways of doing the same thing, but it does work. As I said, sometimes in other places that you might be building, if you don't have the ability to open up the floor and you don't have stone, some of the other wood type, as I said, is core. If you have some core wood, you can create this one, crafting building. Yeah, these small log beams. So you put like 2 of those down, then you can place a fire on top. So let's say you're doing a tree house and you want to be able to create a fireplace and put down a bed for spawning on. That's how you can work around that limitation. I should also point out, this game is not about just having one base or one massive base or one massive village when you're playing with up to 10 other people. It's about, yes, create the initial place where you build, where you gather, where you forage, where you go hunting. But remember, this is what a map looks like this will be all hidden. It'll be like a fog of war. You won't be able to see any of this. You will go far and wide. Do not kid yourself. You need to do that. Don't try to play it any other way. I'll just briefly go over some of the different biomes. So right now we're in what's called a meadows, which is these general small green areas here. There's one there as well. Everything else is pretty much a dark, that looks like trees. That's typically a dark forest. This white grey area, that's a mountain. In terms of animals and creatures, dark forest will have greylings and boars and deers. The mountains will have wolves. Drakes are like flying pterodactyls, basically, or gargoyles, that type of thing. And then there's is that Fenrir, which is like a werewolf type of character. That's what I typically call the silver and obsidian stage. Now, normally, to get silver, there's generally two ways. There's the boss method where you kill, I think it's the third boss, which is bone mass. He gives you like a divining rod, this wishbone up here. That acts as a treasure finder / ore vein finder, which is useful for finding silver when you're in the mountain. However, if you want to get the silver early, and there's a reason for this, because mountains have a penalty, a frost debuff that basically hits your health. So you can only go in so far for so long until you basically lose your health and die. I haven't experienced it, so I can't say exactly how it works. But if you have a bow and arrow with loads of arrows, you can basically, obviously depending on how the map renders for you and the mountains render, is you will find wolves somewhere near the edges of the mountain. If you don't find it at the first mountain, go to another one. Because what you want to do is you want to build basically like a little trap area, like a circle, and you want to kind of trigger them by hitting them nearby, and either hitting them directly or indirectly on the ground next to them to trigger them to come and chase you. Run into your little trap hut, let them follow you in, you then hop up out of it and you close the door and seal them in. Now you can do two things at that point. One, you can kill them, get their hides, which you need to do anyway. Once you do that, the other thing you can do is, assuming you're at the Bronze Age, at that point you should try to put down loads of little fires with wood and stone and make your way up parts of the mountain and just dig in random spots. You will actually find silver that way. Yes, you may get lucky straight away, or you could be an hour or 2 hours later before you hit silver, but that's how you get silver before you have the wishbone. As well, the meadows and the Black Forest, you will find burial sites for all the for the things like the sortling cores and the yellow mushrooms and gems and stuff that you can later sell to a trader for coin, and then use the coin to buy those fishing rods and baits and the extra weight, carrying weight. And he does sell a material which is like I think it's the werewolf pelt or skin that allows you to make some items. Let's see, and other biomes. Yes, so there's another biome there. This is an important one. So I mentioned sortling cores. There is a second source for sortling cores within the swamp biome, which is what this is. This swamp biome basically will have what we call, I think it's dragors, which are like fallen dead pirates. There's ooze. What else is there? There's trees with glowing green pustules on them. That's another material you need to collect. skeletons, and then you have what's called the sunken crypts or sunken burial chambers. Those are the ones that you need to find a swamp key for, and then once you're in there with your pickaxe, you can basically, I think it's with the bronze pickaxe and possibly the antler pickaxe as well from the first boss, you can basically dig through the muck piles and get your scrap iron basically to then make iron, to then make the iron pickaxe and other things. You will also find withered bones, which you need to gather for doing the swamp boss, which is boss number 3, I think, bone mass. You need like 9 of those, and you defeat him, that's when you get the wishbone basically. So let's see, what else have we got here? Oh yes, plains. Plains is the home of goblins, trolls, mosquitoes, lots of nasty things there, but it can also be a good place to build. You can find very high kind of pillars that you can build on top of, where none of the mobs can get you. Goblins and the controls typically give you, it's like a dark green metal. You cannot smelt it. As far as I know, that's for a later stage tiered process. I think it's the blast furnace, I think does that one. Trolls, the actual blue trolls themselves, you will find them around near meadows and black forest and mountain areas typically, sometimes by coastal areas. It looks like there's also a mechanic where when creatures spawn over time in the area that you're in, it will ramp up basically from like just like general like a starting rank of the animal or the creature, and then the more you persist in that area, and particularly at night time when they actually come at you, you'll see stars appear next to the health bar in some of them. That basically means they're a higher rank, like an elite basically. The more stars the better, and more drops you get from those particular ones. But if you can find it, is finding a spot that's next to 3 or 4 biomes can be pretty good. Particularly this area here now is a pretty good area, because you've got access to both meadows, black forest, mountain, swamp here, and similar across the way. That's actually a good spot, in fact, for building a base, because as I said, you can just go into all of these areas and get what you need. But again, do not stick to one area. Don't make that mistake. Just travel across water. You can make a raft. In some cases, you'll find that the distance between some of the land masses is very short, so you can just swim across or make a raft. There's quite a big mountain range there. I just kind of highlighted some of the main things to consider. Let's come out of that. Pretty much everything can be broken or gathered once you're at the right tool level. Like these boulders, when you start out, you can't do anything with them. One little trick I mentioned about skills earlier. See these things here? Depending on where you can find a boulder early on, especially if you're starting a second character on, say, a new server, and you just want to get your chopping skills and your swimming and all those archery skills up, you can actually build a hut around one of these rocks. Now you're probably wondering, well, what does that do? So what that basically does is, remember I mentioned in here, when you're in here, you've got a shelter and a rested state. So if I sit down, if I was also eating food, which I don't have any on me at the moment, obviously my health bar the vertical bar will go back up as well. But if we had one of those boulders in the middle of this, you can basically remain in the rested state and start punch. You can unarmed. You can punch. You can punch the boulder, and what will happen is over time your skill will start going up. Then you can switch to say your axe, and you start hitting it. Now some people will probably use a macro or a program that does mouse clicks, and they could, you know, I heard one person talking about this on a YouTube video, and that's what he was saying. Again, the purpose of this is more to do with not the first time you play the game, but more so the second time you're playing on a different server or on a public server with a group of people, and you just want to get your skills up. I believe you can do similar with the bow and arrow. He did demonstrate one for swimming where he kind of built a structure near water where you're standing on a steps and the tide comes up and down, and now we've got company. I see here there's a flint axe that you get near the start. It's really good. You can do that. So the axes typically are fast to swing, whereas the stuff that does more damage is slower to swing. Just bear that in mind. Timing is everything in this game. So things like when you have when you make the basic wooden shield, I should point out, always use the round shields, not the square shields. Let's have a quick look. So here we go. Where is it? Wood shield, this one here. Make that as soon as you can. So typically, and again, this is one of these games where the concept of parry or parrying an enemy is important. What does that mean? So what it means is that let's see if we can find something to attack us, and I'll show you a good example. Yeah, see the boar there. Let's see if we can get him to attack us. Right, so I just held, he hit, and it went dunk. However, what you want to do is just wait for the last split second, and you hear a higher pitch. Now, obviously, the boar is not a great example of this, but let's say you had a skeleton or a draugr shooting you with arrows, or goblins throwing spears at you. Again, you just watch for when they're about to throw it, and as soon as you see it about to hit you, you just right click very quickly, and you'll hear that ding. Remember, it's ding and not a thud sound is what you want. And the way you know it's worked is because you will see them get a knockback effect. Now you're probably wondering, how is that possible when it's a archer shooting bows at you and you right click to parry and block? Yeah, who knew that was the thing? But apparently it does work, and it can save your health a great deal. But yeah, at the start you'll be doing a lot of kind of just monotonous kind of chopping and everything, and running around and jumping. Running and jumping is a good tactic as well against animals and monsters, particularly to kind of keep your distance. You can also do what's called I think it's shift space and a direction arrow. No, hold on, am I doing it right? There's a way, it's almost like a roll or dodge. Oh, sorry, space mouse 2, that's what it is. Yeah, there we go. See? That comes in handy as well. Sneaking brings up the eye. This is also another good skill to try and level up as well earlier on. The reason I'm running out of stamina so much is because I haven't been eating food, I haven't replaced, and I haven't gone into a proper rested state. Do we have food in here? We do. We can actually eat the food out of the box directly as well. Right, so we're 34 at the moment. So if I sit down, There we go. It's going up 59. You can get that up way up over 100 depending on the food you have and the food you can make. Now, as I said, I just don't have the pot at the moment here on this particular instance, so I can't really show you it. But no, I don't have any stuff on me. That's the gist of it. Just another note on the bosses I mentioned. The stag, which is the first one, this one here, act here. You can do these over and over. So let's say you decide to solo the first boss yourself. Maybe you watch a YouTube video on how to solo bosses, and then your mates come on later. You can redo it with them, and then they get the antlers. Also, everyone gets at least 2 antlers, but I think you only actually need 1 antler to make that pickaxe. Similar with the wishbones, if I remember right. I think it was the same. It does get cold and dark, so things like that do have an effect when you're not in a rested state. So just bear in mind that you can just go back. You don't necessarily have to go back to your base, but what you can do, what I've seen some do, is they'll build a campfire, then they'll build a floor, and around the floor they'll put 3 sides and a roof, or one of these. And because they're within 1 tile of the fireplace, they can create a rested state and recover, need some food and whatnot. So I've condensed quite a bit into this. That's probably the 40 minutes already. I've covered a lot of the basics, things to consider. The reason I feel that a lot of these things are important to know fairly quickly is that it's very easy to play this game for 12 hours and completely miss the cooking stuff, the feeding, the resting. Like, it all has a benefit, and it's more efficient if you can do all these different things in parallel. So in some respects, it's a bit like playing a mod pack from Modded Minecraft, where you've got different types of mods, some for food, some for technology, some for logistics, and by learning them in parallel and progressing and building in parallel, you're not wasting time and effort. Because, like, at the end of the day, not everyone has 24 hours to play a game and progress. Some only have maybe an hour a day or an hour a week. So that's why it's important to look at YouTube videos and learn these different things. So granted, I did start the game myself without doing any of that for at least a week, and then eventually I started looking, because I had a feeling there was things I wasn't aware of. Ironically, after 3 weeks of playing, I only just learned about pressing X to sit down. So yeah, there's always something new and better you can learn. So anyway, for now we're going to knock it on the head. We will do some more Let's Play episodes to feature different things and go maybe do some actual building. But yeah, anyway, that's a good starter one for now. Thanks.